Hello there, I'm Paul Martin with Grizzly Creek Crossing Ministries. And I just wanted to come to you today with a message of we don't know what tomorrow will bring for us. We don't have any guarantees for tomorrow, but be rest assured that God has a plan for us. Only He knows what that plan is. And every morning that you wake up is a blessing from God. Live life to the fullest. That's the only way to live. And don't save things for a special occasion, because we are just a vapor in the wind. As it says in James chapter 4, verse 13, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a city, spend a year there, buy and sell, and make a profit. Whereas you do not know what will happen tomorrow. For what is your life? It is just a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we shall live and do this or that." I want to give you a warning here of a few dangers that we need to all be careful of. First, walking in the flesh instead of in the spirit. And not walking in faith, but by sight. This usually fills our days with worry. Danger of planning ahead and planning every detail and not praying for direction from God. Running ahead of God rather than waiting for God to open doors to make our path straight and clear obstacles out of our way. That constant battle we all have with worry, chances are your worry list is longer than your prayer list. And then the greatest worry of all is when our last day will come. We serve a mighty God who has put our lives together from start to finish. He's not finding out things along the way. You're never going to hear a gasp coming from heaven. "Ah, I didn't see that one coming." No. He has it all planned out for us. Our times are in His hands. Looking back at verse 13, it says, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a city and spend a year there and buy and sell and make a profit. Whereas you do not know what will happen tomorrow." If we're not careful, we will follow our own rules, our rules. It's all there in verse 13. Here are our rules. First, we choose our time, today or tomorrow. Second, we select our location. For example, I'll be in Dallas next week. I'll be in Oregon the following week. And so on and so forth. And third, we limit our time there. I'll spend 2 days in Dallas. I'll spend a week in Oregon. And then we will arrange our activities according to those times. It's all there in verse 13. That's exactly what we do in unguarded moments. We set out a plan for ourselves. Now understand, James is not criticizing good planning. He's not advocating being haphazard with our lives. But in Proverbs, we see that it is very much talking about organizing our lives. What he is addressing is mistaken confidence, and we need to stop that. Stop the presumptive living. In fact, if we look at the very next verse, it says, "Whereas you do not know what will happen tomorrow." We've planned out our tomorrows. I'm as guilty as anyone about that. But we don't know what our life is going to be like tomorrow. I put together a few tomorrows for you to look at. First, the date is Thursday, April 13th. Secretary of War Edwin Stanton is making plans for a victorious celebration in the White House. Banners have been hung, flowers have been ordered. The name Ulysses S. Grant, the victor, is going to be spread all over the nation. The end of the war between the states is finally coming to a conclusion. Finally, the bloodshed is going to come to an end. They're going to celebrate. But then came the bullet to his brain. The president had been assassinated. The day before, they didn't know a thing about that. The day before, they had security locked down and the president was safe. Now let's look ahead over 75 years later. It's a Saturday afternoon, and a naval officer and his young wife had just finished up unpacking their apartment and getting it all arranged. Enjoying their new tour of duty at Pearl Harbor, this was going to be great. The date was December 6th. We'll sleep in tomorrow, he says to her. We've got everything arranged. And they had a wonderful night of romance. And then boom! The place is destroyed. The date is December 7th, 1941. They never thought of that the day before. Now let's jump ahead to a time when we were all around. It was a Monday night. I was watching Monday Night Football. What a great game it was. Denver Broncos against the New York Giants. I especially enjoyed it because the Broncos beat the Giants 31-10 that night. Brian Grizzly threw for 330 yards, 3 touchdowns. It was a great game. Date was September 10th, 2001. Getting ready for work the next morning, I had the TV on, getting caught up on the news and what the weather was going to do that day, when the national news broke in that a plane had just hit one of the towers of the World Trade Center. I sat on the edge of the bed and watched as that second plane went into the second tower. It looked like we were at war, and we were at war. The date was September 11th, 2001. You know, there are a number of stories of people just like you and me that had gotten up that morning to go to work, never imagining that their world was going to come to an end that day. You do not know what your life is going to be like tomorrow, nor do I. Suddenly it makes sense, doesn't it? James was writing way ahead of his time. You are just a vapor. I've got a good friend who was at home one morning taking care of the morning chores, feeding the horses, and her neighbor calls. Says, "Hey, are you guys all right?" And what she didn't realize was one of the most destructive and costliest fires in Colorado history was barreling down on her property. She had just enough time to get the animals loaded into the trailers, grab her son, and get out of there with just the clothes on their back. An hour later, their farm was gone. A friend of mine was driving home one night after working a second shift when suddenly his car veered off the road, sending him straight into a power pole, killing him instantly. It was later determined that he'd had a seizure, which caused him to lose consciousness. And now a personal story of mine. My favorite aunt, I loved and adored this woman. She had what she thought was a bad cold and just couldn't shake it. And being the stubborn woman that she was, and by the way, that kind of runs in the family, she refused to go to the ER until her friend finally convinced her to go, where they discovered she had pneumonia. But in looking at the x-rays closer, they saw a spot on one of her lungs. And after further tests, they discovered that she had stage 4 lung cancer. 6 weeks later, I attended her funeral. This isn't dramatic stuff. This is real life stuff. I can give you names to every one of these people. I could go on. You do not know what tomorrow will bring. You have no assurances of a long life. Let's look at the text again. You are just a vapor that appears for a little while, then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we shall live. And if the Lord wills, we will do this or that. Do you see the word he uses to describe our lives? Vapor. Atmos. A-T-M-I-S in the Greek text. We get our word atmosphere from it. A puff of smoke, as one person renders it. A wisp of fog. All those hot shots running around in three-piece suits, riding in limos, thinking they got life by the tail. Their lives are just a wisp of fog. So we have no assurances of a long life. So here's what we ought to say. If the Lord wills, it's not about my will, it's about his will. I want to give 3 practical lessons, and then I'm through. There's a will we need to respect. Our Lord's will. Notice the name, Lord, our Master. This will guard us from pride, a constant problem we all face. The Lord's will. Second, there is a destiny we need to remember. This will guard us from presumption. So work hard and give it everything you've got. Because there is a destiny we need to remember, and we're all going to end up there. Third, there is a life we need to realize. This will guard you from procrastination. For goodness sakes, live. I love Jim Elliot's line, wherever you are, be all there. Live life to the hilt. Every situation you believe to be the will of God, live it. It's a wonderful way to live your life. And if you don't, you'll regret it. One of my favorite pastors, Dr. Chuck Swindoll, shares a very personal story that I'd like to share with you today. He says, my brother-in-law opened the bottom drawer of my sister's dresser and lifted out a tissue-wrapped package. This is not a slip, he said. This is lingerie. He discarded the tissue and handed me the slip. It was exquisite silk, handmade, trimmed in a cobweb of lace. The price tag with an astronomical figure on it was still attached. Jan bought this the first time we were in New York, he said, at least 8 or 9 years ago, but never wore it. She was saving it for a special occasion. Well, I guess this is the occasion. He took the slip from me and put it on the bed next to the other clothes we were taking to the mortician. His hands lingered on the soft material for a moment, and then he slammed the drawer shut. He stood there a moment and said, don't ever save anything for a special occasion. Every day that you are alive is a special occasion. I remembered those words through the funeral and in the days following as I helped him and my niece attend to all the sad chores that followed an untimely and unexpected death. I'm still thinking about those words today and how it's changed my life. I'm trying hard not to put off, hold back, or save anything that would add laughter or enhance our lives. And every morning when I wake up and open my eyes, I tell myself, this is a special day. So my message today is live life to the fullest today because you do not know what tomorrow is going to bring. Live life to the fullest because you do not know what tomorrow will bring. Tell people you love them today because you do not know what life will be like tomorrow. Worship your God today because you do not know what life will be like tomorrow. I hope this has been a good message for you to help you understand that today is not, or tomorrow is not a guarantee for you. So live your life today and praise God every day. I'm Paul Martin with Grizzly Creek Crossing Ministries, and I hope you have a blessed day, and we will be talking with you real soon.